For the past year and a half, I have deliberately tuned in to content about royalty, specifically European royalty. The reason I did that is because I saw one year a trend about Princess Diana, and then I thought, when I think about it, I really cannot say I know who or what these people are. So I have been consuming some documentaries. I even watched a few episodes of The Crown to see how it compares the fiction versus the real life. And I also attempted to learn about the different, I guess, hierarchies that they have. For instance, you have your, I don't know the order, but it's something like barons, baronesses, marquises, marchionesses, dukes, kings, I don't know, something like that. And then I felt like my confusion is, what exactly does it all mean? What is the purpose of having this society of powerful people if the average people in their country will never be able to understand, let alone join that society, because it is not like their doors are exactly open. Like, say, because of royal protocol or whatever, your access to these people is going to be pretty limited. And I also particularly was curious about why it is that they perform charity work, but somehow they're not supposed to be getting paid for any of that, but somehow they have a ton of money and somehow they get to wear fancy jewelry. And I understand that if I think about it from the point of view of, well, jewels are indicative of status, authority in some instances, they're symbols. And what I have learned is that at this point, royalty is more of a symbolic thing, ceremonious thing, more than them actually having power. Something that I wasn't very clear on either is, why is it that the king or queen starts the session of parliament and they get to wear the crown if they're not exactly the leader of the country, if they're not the prime minister who would serve as what to us is the president? I'm not supposed to be thinking of this place as a monarchy, yet you have royalty. With that said, very poorly expressed and explained, all I can tell you is that I don't understand the point of royalty in the modern day. And I'm not saying that I think it should be completely eliminated, but when it comes to upholding traditions, I think that as a society, we just need to get together and agree on what we are going to consider traditions that are worthy of keeping into the present. And traditions could mean anything. It could mean holidays, it could mean values, cultural, symbolic things, like, say, in the US, federal holidays. I'm not opposed to that. I'm just saying that to me, in the modern day, I look at royalty as they exist as rich people and they're just rich for the sake of being rich because it's what they have inherited back from a time when they actually did have power, and they do have influence and power, but I guess in the modern day the perception of it has shifted tremendously. And I feel like I'm supposed to believe that they are serving the people directly and that they don't do this for, I guess, money, but somehow they still need to get their funding somewhere, and the funding comes from people. So I guess I would have to ask members of the society that still have royalty how they actually feel about the royals. Are you into them because they happen to be celebrities and they are also a national symbol, therefore it is a source of pride for you? But overall, in general, you personally, directly, how have you benefited from royalty, or how have you been harmed by royalty? I'm supposed to believe that these folks are like, I guess, how do I put this? They're supposed to represent the people of the country they live in, But at least in the countries that have royalty, not all of them are doing well. For instance, I can say that in the United Kingdom, the people I know who live there, some people leave the United Kingdom because their lives are not going very well over there. They experience scarcity. It's no different from the US, how we have like poverty level folks. And what exactly is royalty doing to address that? If they participate in charities, how do we ensure that all the charities they're participating in are the ones that are really going to help the most needy? And I remember that the Queen once said something about how, whether her time be long or short, her life is going to be devoted to our service, or I guess the service of her people, because I'm not British. But I remember hearing that, but then I also remember that something that one of the documentaries revealed is that there was something happening with one of her yachts or something. It was either being decommissioned or it needed to be repaired. I don't know. But for some reason, she didn't want to pay for it. The royal yacht wasn't theirs, it wasn't their property. And then someone else's topic is the entitlement about the royal yacht is unreal. I kind of agree. That's how I felt. Whether it be their property or not. You want something new and shiny? You chip in? She wanted to somehow use, I think it was like government money for it. And I thought, lady, you can sell one of your little crowns, and that alone is going to probably give you the value of this yacht or the repair of it many times over. So that was disappointing. And on top of that, another disappointing thing is that the sovereign, the king or the queen, they seem to inherently condemn their family to a degree of neglect. But I feel like Prince William in the modern day, he seems to be the one that convinces me is closer to his kids. Because, for instance, I doubt that the queen was present for Andrew and Charles in a way that would have ensured that with her maternal influence, they wouldn't have turned out to be the clowns that we know them to be. And say in William's case, being with someone like Kate, someone who is of commoner status, but by no means was she like broke, poverty ridden in any way. At least this is a person who I guess was raised with a better familial sense and she's able to manage the kids better. And I really get the vibe that maybe Kate has also been allowed to influence a little bit, I guess, William's presence in the family. Sure, next in line in the throne, he's going to have a busy schedule and agenda. But I really feel like the two of them come home to each other and there's actually not turmoil that they cannot really work out. Whereas, say, when Charles and Diana were together, it seemed like a circus. And I think it's because neither of them were really prepared for each other. And I think that with William and Kate, because they were somewhat older, significantly older, I guess I could say, they were in their late 20s or something, when they finally got married, maybe they did have a good foundation. And that's something that Charles and Diana just didn't really have because I feel like they got engaged pretty quickly. And so they're supposed to be symbols of tradition and all that, but it's just odd to me that they're funded by the people's money, but not everybody can say that they're benefiting from it equally. So, as an American, I can say to me that is comparable to how, even though there is social programs to help people that I know I contribute to, I can't benefit from it because of certain criteria that I don't meet. I think for me to qualify for any of those things, I would have to be homeless because if I'm shown to be living with another adult, boom, they just assume that I have access to the resources from that other adult in my home. And I'm like, no. Royalty, contributing to charities, but maybe some people do not fit into the category of those charities to be able to benefit from them, what can those people get from royalty, either directly or indirectly, so that they feel the input of royalty in their lives? I cannot say I experience a lot of the input of the government in my life outside of whatever I access publicly, such as the post office, the roads, and all of those, you could say, infrastructural details. But when it comes to actual social benefits, like, say, funding a cause of mine directly, I don't know, give me food, give me health insurance, something like that, I get nothing. Those things that I consider are more important for your subsistence, I feel like our government doesn't do a very good job with that. I think charities do better with that. And if I thought of royalty in the United States, I feel like it would be an absolute utter mess, because we can tell what kind of people and families would be into it. But at the same time, if royalty is supposed to be the representation of the people of a country, then how come an average Joe cannot just casually walk into their social circles, network, and find themselves a prince or princess, a duke or duchess or baron or baroness or something? You have to be part of that society. Why does it have to be a society plagued by protocol? Some protocol that is kind of silly, but it's all because of an image, I guess. And like I said, that is my horribly explained, poorly educated description of the impressions that I got royalty to be. I still have yet to officially look up the meaning of royalty. I'm just trying to define it based off what I absorbed from these documentaries and the couple of Google searches I've done to like make the connections and stuff. And I just think that something hierarchical like that, I'm just having trouble imagining it working, but I guess that I guess American experience makes it borderline impossible for me to be able to absorb such an institution as efficient, because I've never experienced something like that. So maybe over there in those places that have royalty, they see it, they experience it, they like it, it works for them. Great. But how come France doesn't have a royal family? I don't remember hearing about the French royal family. Italy, I don't remember hearing about the Italian royal family. Why do those places not have royalty? And sure, I have heard of these details when I was in school, but in modern days, the significance of this, how come other places have not followed this suit? I know the palaces are still there, but that's the part that has me confused. Like, y'all went as far as inbreeding to preserve some genes, but if you ask me, and I know that to an extent it's kind of wrong to judge the past as a modern person, because it doesn't necessarily mean that my modern times are inherently superior to what their times were. They were the modern times at some point in history. But inbreeding, to me, it's a symbol of selfishness. And you describe it as you want to preserve the best genes. Why does it have to be white people? Why does it have to be blue-eyed people? Why do these people gotta be tall? I mean, I know the queen was short, but if you're trying to, I guess, preserve those good genes, I would think that diversifying your genes a little bit is what would make you stronger. Because maybe with climate change, you think that you can continue to get away with a pale complexion, but now that the ozone layer is letting more UV rays come in, maybe you could benefit from activating pigmentation in your lineage. See what I mean? This is just scientifically speaking. I'm not trying to make this about race superiority, or I guess it's called eugenics, because to me that is the silliest fucking shit ever. And I'm just saying, why do they all have to be from like the same class of people? I understand that it is because it is a life of protocol, and someone who already comes from that life would integrate themselves better to such a system, but how come you cannot offer royalty courses in your public schools, in your private schools? Why do you all have to be going to these elite schools, but the schools in your country are not all inherently considered elite? How come they get to have an education that it's the way it is, that gives them a competitive edge everywhere, but how come your subjects don't? That's the part of me that I'm in a conflict with when it comes to understanding this, because all I see is eliteness that is just passed down. It's not exactly pop a baby, test them, see what he can actually do or she can actually do, what they actually gravitate toward, what are their natural talents. If they're artistic, throw them into a competition with other artistic people, whether they be from the middle class, low class, just average rich person, or an influential person, a politician's kid, whatever it is. Throw them together and see which one comes out superior, and maybe from there you can establish that they require a different pace in their education. Princess Diana, from what I heard, she wasn't very good academically. Prince Andrew, he wasn't very good academically. Yet they get to experience elite and privileged treatment just because of who their parents are and who their family is. We know that Diana's influence was just something that she was just mystifying the masses. Also, because of that, she could bring attention to causes, and that's great. I know that there are some royals that have, I guess, stepped down to become teachers. That's great. The senior ones very often don't do that. I guess they can't do that because of their duties. But I'm not very clear on what that accomplishes in the grand scheme of things. So, yeah, you guys, needless to say, this is an introduction for future topics that I'm going to be bringing here. And I just wanted to let this serve as the preliminary, introductory rambling, and then after that, you will be able to pick up on what comes next after this. I'm going to start picking some people's brains apart, but parasocially, of course, members of royalty. Okay, that's it. Bye.